Lincoln Legends, Lore and Langiappe, presented by your Lincoln Parish Museum and Historical Society, celebrating 50 years of community support. Enjoy as our museum director, Rick Godley, takes the time to capture the stories of life in Lincoln Parish from the characters of Lincoln Parish. In this episode, Rick had the opportunity to sit and visit with Bill Cox. Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen. I am Rick Godley, the director of the Lincoln Parish Museum and Historical Society, as we're celebrating our 50th anniversary, 1975 to 2025. Going to start a new episode here, and I welcome your input, your feedback, your questions. It's called Lincoln Legends, Lore, and Langiappe, brought to you by the Lincoln Parish Museum and Historical Society, just capturing the story part of his story or her story. So please reach out to me so we can have more folks. We'll set up here in the Lincoln Parish Museum, or I'm equipped to come to where you happen to be, just to sit down and casually have a conversation. And the first person I thought in a casual way to have a conversation with, the inimitable, that's a big word there, Mr. Bill Cox. I hope it's a compliment, because you deserve a compliment. Bill Cox, going to take some time, and we're just going to visit and see where the stories go, because Bill, from what I understand, I moved here, by the way, I moved here in 1982, so people think that I'm from here. I'm not from here, but I did meet this man when I moved here in 1983, because my apartment was on Deborah Lane, which is south of town, so I had to take 167 south, and on the left there was this Shell station. So this is 1983, that I would pull in to get gas or pull in to get repairs. And so I knew Bill way back then, but now I know Bill a little bit more. And so Bill, I want to thank you for taking the time and visiting with us here today, and just sharing the stories, because one of the things, and I don't know if Kathy had brought this up, but your station was positioned in a strategic point where it was the corner of two federal highways, not interstate highways, but Highway 80 and 167. So let's just get started right there. When did Cox's Shell come to be? And you said I used to have an Esso station. So tell us about your experience in, I guess, the gas station auto repair business.
Well, Rick, first of all, I knew absolutely nothing about an automobile. When something happened to my car, I took it to somebody else. And I majored in geological engineering at Louisiana Tech. And when I got out, petroleum engineers, geological engineers, geologists were a dime a dozen. I could not find a job.
What year are we talking about?
Late 50s.
Okay.
And I was married, and I needed something to do. Now I had worked at a service station, Walter Pendry's SO, just off the Tech campus, when I was a student. Well, I owe a lot to Mr. Pendry. In a way, he taught me everything. He was a coal miner from West Virginia, and we kind of grew up together. I didn't know much, he didn't know much, but he was a good man, and I owe him a lot. He later on worked for me at the Shell station. So I started off one block up, and at that time was a two-lane highway.
Right.
And later on, they one-wayed the streets. And I tried my best to learn. So, matter of fact, my wife and I were talking just the other day. To learn about a motor, I took my personal car to the station, pulled the motor out of it, tore it completely down, put it in boxes, put tape on it. That's the way I tore it down. I reversed it when I put it back together. And that's the way I learned about any kind of automobile. I practiced on our own car. Well, I became a jack of all trades, master of none. Piddled with just almost anything that it was a hard go initially. And the people of Ruston, I understood that it was a cleanish place, but boy, Rick, the people of Ruston, they came to my rescue. Most of those folks that initially traded with me are deceased now, but they saw to it that I had a good business. It was it was just something about Ruston, Lincoln Parish, and you know, I started painting a little bit. Painted the first refrigerator I ever painted, and Lord knows I painted enough refrigerators. And
Well, Bill Brown says you painted every refrigerator in Ruston at
Well,
one time or
I
another.
don't know about that.
Well, tell us the refrigerator painting story. How did that start?
Well,
And why do people need their refrigerators painted?
well, my wife was given a refrigerator, and it had sat outside, and well, no, it was a freezer. And copper tone was real big early on. You know, it was everything was white up until copper tone time. So she wanted that thing copper toned. Well, you know, you shade it, and well, I painted my own first, and the next thing I knew, I was painting appliances, and then I started painting cars, and Lord knows I painted a lot of cars. And initially, I had Mr. Herb Neely. I took the SO station from Mr. Herb Neely, and he had the Western Auto Store here. That was way before your time. And he left the station with it. He pretty well took everything with it. I had a pair of pliers and a claw hammer where one of the claws was broken on it. And that was my tools. So immediately I never will forget, I made a little sign, wash and lube, $1.25. So I put it out front, and I had a grease rack, and I had a wash rack. Rick, I was in business a long time before I sold 300 gallons of gasoline in a day. I made a half a cent a gallon.
People need to understand too, when you say wash and lube, but for only $1.25, that is a change of oil and greasing, and that's 5 quarts of oil in most cases.
Well, no,
Right.
no. That was only a lube job.
Only lube, okay.
Wash and lube. But now, you used tire black on all the tires.
Right.
You painted the floorboards inside the car, inside the trunk. You probably had 25 or 30 alamites under a car. So it was a grease job was a
Right.
it was a thorough. But I found out that with that pair of pliers, I could open that. All of the master cylinders were under the floorboard in the driver's side of the car. Well, I was in there anyway, tire blacking, so I would open it up and I'd say, you need a little bit of brake fluid. Well, you could buy a can for $0.25, and I charged $0.25 to top it off. So I could make, 75 cents or $1 off of a can of brake fluid.
Right.
That was the first thing I learned. And it just progressed from there. I bought a welding machine and I started welding.
Well, when I moved to town, I want to say you had 2 bays. Is that right? Or
I had 3.
You had 3.
Three.
And so obviously more mechanics came on for you. But I mean, again, for people need to understand, here we're living in 2025, that they go to the convenience store to fill up. It used to be they would come to you
And you check the hood, check the tires,
wash the windshield.
sweep them out. Sweep them out. Everybody carried a little whisk broom in their back pocket.
That's good. That's
So
good.
it was.
Thank you for watching Lincoln Legends Lore and Langiappe, presented by your Lincoln Parish Museum and Historical Society, celebrating 50 years of community support. Please follow us on Facebook for all future events as we celebrate our 50th anniversary this year. Thank you once again for your contributions of support. This has been a Godleyworks for Nonprofits production in association with Rick Godley's ATL Features. ATL stands for All Things Local. ATL also stands for All Things Lincoln.